you. God.
No.
Sick, because I still care about him. I still love him.
You groomed them. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it.
I'm hoping that we'll both be able to live a normal life together, and we can help each other, and maybe I can show them the love and understanding that they never got. I was going to make a video talking about a recent document that was released about me. I've been an irresponsible content creator, and I've been acting inappropriately towards my fans.
Synnibear03 is a name that's become synonymous with the word degenerate in the last year, thanks to an incredibly high-profile controversy about her interactions with a minor. But how most people have seen her, from her fights over cats or the explicit comics in her DMs, is only a snippet of Synni's online history. Once known as ScootalooLovesSans, Synni was a part of the animation meme community, and represented some of its highest peaks. At only 14 years old, her short videos went viral, one of them gathering over 20 million views. Yet, when hearing of Synni's name, even in a situation directly about her, it's interesting how much she becomes an afterthought in the shadows. It all seems to be more focused on a crazed roommate or delusional defenders. Almost no one looks past the recent events and how her reputation was once as a golden child of her own community. You realise that Synni's story is a perfect painting of a spiral from childhood fame. The many dramas she racked up along the way were mere tremors of what was to come. So, who is, or rather was, Synnibear03? Cynthia Totsky was born on September 22, 2003 in Springfield, Missouri. Her last name, sounding so stereotypically un-American, stems from her being a quarter Polish, as well as being able to speak some Russian. Cynthia and her family moved around Missouri through her life, going from Springfield to Independence and then to Lee Summit, where she studied in Lee Summit West High School. This single presentation for school from 2018, found out there in the online ether on some forgotten account, tells us some interesting information. Synni claims to have previously worked in a GameStop, and had a vested interest in video games, referencing Zelda, Mario, and Minecraft in a mock-up business card. She would later graduate from high school with a diploma. Synni grew up as a Christian, something expected from the American South. From what we can discern, her life at home was still generally stable, although Synni's parents seemed to be more controlling, constantly looking over everything she was doing. When she started a YouTube career, they would set up a bank account that she could put her earnings in, but withheld her earnings from her until she was 18. The family also had some mental health issues, with Synni's father and younger brother having ADHD, and Synni herself being autistic. Synni has also attributed some unfortunate incidents to her early life, claiming to have been sexualized by adults and traumatized. Synni had an interest in art from the age of 2, and most likely took up similar subjects in school. However, it wasn't until her dad bought her a computer that she would be able to publicly express that art through the internet. Synni joined both YouTube and DeviantArt in March 2014, but wouldn't be active on either platform until the year after. Being only around 13 at the time, Synni's interests were in stuff that appealed to young girls at the time, and it was the My Little Pony series in particular that captured her imagination. One of the MLP characters would become a basis for her first online name, SCOOTALOO. Although this might be a little unfamiliar now, old viewers of her will recognise this name far better than Synnibear. From her start, Synni's understanding of technology seems remarkably solid for the time. Her early videos in 2015 were made with YouTube's video editor, even with the MS Paint she used. Some of them featured stop motion with her toys, others were recorded speed paints and eventually full animation. Even her first public video is a short story based on a real experience of a friend that she made, moving away and later reconnecting with her online. As per usual, the story is represented by MLP avatars. Synni's online activity would eventually draw her towards an emerging subsect of the wider online art community, driven by a trend of short repetitive animations over specific parts of music or audio. It became what we know nowadays as the animation meme community, but back in 2016 it was still in its early stages, and a new young generation of artists were coming online and making YouTube channels. Synnibear would be drawn towards a section of this animation meme community, populated entirely by young tweens who fangirled over over the character Sans from Undertale. Synni's arrival wasn't by mistake. She had adored Undertale and Sans in particular before coming across them. And in short, all these fangirls would essentially obsess over Sans, draw him in romantic situations with their OC, mashing up their OC with him, you get the idea. This is where you get the second half of Synni's old online alias, ScootalooLovesSans. But would you know that fangirling is no easy feat? Over time, some jealous individual or ambitious troll would hate raid your video or draw them literally killing your character if you posted about loving Sans too much. Most of these young Sans fangirls would eventually reply with the same tactics. Interestingly though, as a late arrival, Synni went against the grain, pledged to not harass or attack anyone, and began to drift away from this small online space. Her inspiration for doing so was a so-called light of happiness within the Sans fangirls, a young animator who, unlike everyone else, seemed to spread joy. His name was Birdie.
Then I came across this one channel named Birdie the Parrot, Sans' waifu, who eventually renamed herself Birdie. Just Birdie. And I looked at her channel, and I thought, whoa, this is cool. She's doing like the opposite of what everyone else is doing. And she has so many fans, and people love her. And then I thought, you know what, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it the right way. I'm not gonna harass anyone, I'm not gonna try killing anyone over the internet, because that's stupid. So if I'm gonna do what everyone else is doing, I'd better do it right.
During early 2017, Birdie became one of the first Sans fangirls to enter the wider animation meme community, and his animations quickly shot him up to success. Synni felt that he was different from the rest, a beacon of positivity and inspiration, but Birdie had been internalizing these same behaviors he tried to escape, and didn't draw the line of obsession at fictional. Despite his seemingly decent talent for the time, and his videos doing well, fame would lead to a 12-year-old Birdie showing off his violent habits and possessive nature to thousands. He would become obsessed with fellow YouTubers and animators within the community to the point of no return. What didn't help was that the community was mostly populated by people under the age of 15, including Synni, which doesn't bode well with the sexual and suggestive themes shown in some of their videos, only obscured by a frankly useless 13+ warning. Despite all the controversy, Synni was still a big fan of Birdie's work and animations, and began making her own animation videos. She would eventually start to gain some traction, and even received a small shout out from her at the time idol.
I have a lot of fans now, and, well, people like me. And I found out that Birdie likes me. Birdie the parrot. I found out, like, a few days ago. She put me in one of her videos, and I freaked the hell out. I was so excited that I could not stop giggling, and my dad thought I was insane.
However, unlike Birdie, whose potential was then pile-drived into the murky waters of personal drama, Synni did the opposite. She locked in, worked on multiple animations, and started pumping them out every week with fairly good quality for them all. Considering she's around 13 at this time, I have to really commend her work ethic here. She's got a better upload schedule than most YouTubers nowadays. The ability to post this much as a young animator is incredibly impressive, and she was rewarded well, as her videos are now some of the most viewed in the animation meme community. Several of them stack up in the millions or tens of millions, with one small MLP animation standing at over 20 million views.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reveal that I have for you. Everyone, witness my face. You happy? Oh my god, it is so hot in this mask. Get out of here. Whoa, look at me. Look at my beautiful acne-covered face that I don't add in my character because that's just stupid. Is this better for you guys? Because I don't think it is. I hope this was at least entertaining because I do put a lot of effort into making these videos for you guys without having a strict schedule or, yeah.
After a sum of hard work, Synni had accumulated close to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2017. Her newfound success got her in contact with fellow animators such as Sleepykin, Kitty Dog, Pastaru, Sashly, and indeed Birdie, as well as Birdie's at the time close friend and partner known as Heimgut. Synni would also enter an online relationship with another girl, an animator known as Ambrixen. Synni didn't just do animations though, she often drew her fans, made speed paint videos, and would also do unscripted rants venting out her frustrations about a particular subject within the animation meme community. It was rare and very off the cuff, which made her feel more real but also had its consequences. in June of 2017, Synni fired off an angry comment accusing another animator named Cushly of tracing over her artwork. The tracing claims were true, but instructing her fans to go and yell at her was more of an issue. Synni didn't even realise the gravity of her actions until her dad asked about it, by which point the damage had already been done. She would delete her comment and issue an apology, as well as having a private conversation with Cushly. By the way, if that name sounds familiar, it's because Cushly would later rename her channel to Sashly. Throughout 2018, Synni continued to grow at an almost exponential rate, in what was her channel's most successful period. She grew to almost 350,000 subscribers, and plenty of her videos started to really pop off to the point where they are now. As big of a jump as this seems, it is completely accurate to everything that I can see from the archives. Synni almost became the face of the entire animation meme community, and gained a reputation of a golden child, or the so-called first good Sans fangirl, due to her kind nature, her output, and the fact that she would stray away from many of the toxic traits that define these deranged brats. But that status would come under question when Synni would make a short 2-minute video titled "Same Face Syndrome Isn't Real." Synni's main idea was exactly that, arguing about same-face syndrome, a criticism made towards artists who either consciously or unconsciously use the same features for all their characters, like relying on a specific face mold. The topic had been brought up amidst a sort of online art hysteria, a bunch of videos warning fellow animators and how to avoid this trap in their work. The one who popularized the term, at least in the animation meme community, was Synni's fellow animator, Sleepykin. And seeing people comment on her posts saying that she was drawing under same-face syndrome, Synni became annoyed and created this video, in which she makes the argument that it doesn't exist, and was only popularized by Sleepykin as a way to feed his ego.
Hello, I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret right here. Just close in. Same-face syndrome doesn't exist. I've been getting on the front page a lot on DeviantArt, so my page has now been opened up to a lot of new people, including very stupid people. And because of that, I get comments like, "Oh, they look too much alike, this is same-face syndrome." When it's not. I think a lot of this comes from the friggin' Sleepy King video, where he tells everyone, "Oh yeah, you can copy my style, I don't care." And everyone thinks this is same-face syndrome, and I'm gonna show you why this is stupid. Same-face syndrome was made up by Sleepy King, so everyone will draw the same way he does. You're getting it confused with people who draw adults, children, and elderly, and maybe even animals with the same facial structure. That I've been trying to work on, but these girls are the same age and same species. They are going to look alike. Don't get me wrong, I understand, in real life, if you put two people next to each other, then they're gonna look different. But, if you haven't noticed, I'm a cartoonist. I don't exactly follow rules like that, and neither do a lot of other people. Neither do companies. This is just a stylistic choice, and a lot of people do it. It's one of the easiest ways to tell one artist from another by looking at their style, which may be how they draw faces. It's in a lot of cartoons. Why is this now becoming an issue? In conclusion, if you think same-face syndrome is a problem, I think you're dumb.
Obviously, there are some problems with Synni's arguments. For one, her claims about Sleepykin were entirely baseless. The advice he gave wasn't that people can just copy him, it was using his methods to find inspiration. Obviously, everyone's inspiration differs with their lives, environment, age, gender, etc. Secondly, Synni's idea of what same-face syndrome was seemed entirely inaccurate. Several sources outside of YouTube called it an actual thing years prior. And the problem wasn't with the character's species or age, it was with its features, shapes, and design. Needless to say, Synni's video wasn't good, and she came under fire from numerous other creators who jumped in to debunk and say their piece that same-face syndrome is in fact real. Other people had an issue with Synni lashing out at random DeviantArt commenters, and she would continue to after the video, even taking a shot at Birdie. Eventually, Synni issued a full apology and retraction, but the damage was already done. Though it didn't cause any significant sub-loss, you can see from the Social Blade that Synni's channel dropped off the high she was riding. She went from gaining around 20 to 30,000 subs every month to just 1/6 of that original growth. Synni herself saw a tank in her productivity, and her uploads became pretty infrequent. Even if the drama lasted a few days, the torrential criticism remained ever present in her consciousness. Later, Synni would try again, uploading a new rant video in February 2019 about another of her animation peers, that being Sashley. Amidst all the drama Sashley was already in at the time, Synni posted a video that criticised her art style and habits. To be fair, it's better than the last one, but the video was still controversial. So much so that Synni's subs gained continued to decrease amidst this sub-war the fanbases had made. Synni's video in general seems to have really nothing to go at Sashley for, instead resorting to talking about certain features that she stole that seem like very obvious and popular ideas for anyone. One of Synni's points was about Sashley copying the trends of others, which would hold firm if the community they were in wasn't wholly based on taking animation trends and memes from other people. There's a whole part where Synni criticises Sashley for not giving background to her characters, despite Synni not doing the same. Interestingly, Synni also talks about comments that people left calling her a Sashley clone, despite her video being made 2 months in advance.
You know what really boils my piss? I made the transitor meme like a year ago, and both Sashley and Casual Susan both heavily referenced it. But you know, I didn't have a problem with it. They both gave credit in the description. But recently on my video, I got a lot of Sashley fans mad at me because I copied her when my video came out 2 months before hers did. What? There was even someone who went on Sleepy King's Don't Talk meme and said,
"This kinda looks like Sashley's video."
This isn't Sashley's fault, of course, because she left credit. It's just that no one looks for the credits in the description. Also this person.
Someone copied you, but I like the person who copied you better.
Wow. Rude.
Along with the comments on a DeviantArt that sparked the Same Face Syndrome video, we're starting to paint a picture of Synni being pretty sensitive and reacting impulsively. Obviously these people are wrong, but it's like she made the whole video because of them. It's worth keeping in mind she was still pretty young around this time, around 14 to 15 years old, but there's still something up about this, the scale of it and making the video. To me, I feel as if Synni saw that Sashley was under fire with serious claims, and saw this as an opportunity to bring up her personal grudges. These two drama situations showed that Synni was not exactly cut out for commentary. In her video, she really seemed to be grasping at straws and making points that were entirely useless. Her motivations seemed petty or just reactive, sparked by mean comments from random members of Sashley or Sleepykin's audience. Despite the vehement support she would get from her fans in both dramas, it was evident that all she had to do was put the animations in the bag. Eventually, Synni began to realise this, and after going back to posting speed paints and animations, as well as starting her own DeviantArt webcomic, she began to drift away from the ScootalooLovesSans name. She had gotten so much fame under it, but in the process had tied it to controversy that kept affecting her reputation. So, in 2020, she took the bold decision to change her name from ScootalooLovesSans to Synnibear03. After feeling like the Scootaloo name gave her no respect and just confined her to the idea of a Sans fangirl, Synni wanted to break free from it all. She would also start to disavow some of her previous drama videos. But if her intention was to cut the drama from her name, that idea would soon become null and void. If Synni's drama was hard-hitting, Birdie's was like being run over by a Mack truck. By 2020, Birdie was now known across the animation meme community as this obsessive psychosexual stalker, perennial doxer and harasser, false accusations made against ex-partners, petty grudges, weird relationships, everything, all at the age of just 15. The point is, associating with Birdie now was a lot more controversial than it was back in 2017. He had gained a number of detractors. Most importantly for the time, Evidence Founder 1, a collective of grown-ass adults, and apparently some weird freaks, A-logging all of Birdie's moves. So why do we mention this channel? Well, in June 2020, they posted a video revealing that Synni had been trying to get into contact with Birdie over the years. You'd think after surpassing him in sub count, she'd leave her unfulfilled community wishes behind, as in the grander scheme of things, it would only bring her down further. Plus, as we mentioned before, Birdie was now way more unhinged. Yet, Synni still desperately wanted to become friends with Birdie and developed an obsession of sorts with him. There were tons of fan art, Discord messages longing for contact, and animations showing Birdie in a positive light. All whilst he was on a vicious doxing and harassment campaign against his ex-partner Heimguts. In some ways, people believe that Synni's drawings of him were meant to glorify or support his actions. Speaking of partners, if you've got a good memory, you'll know that Synni's partner at the time was called Ambrixon, and they'd started dating back in 2017. The two had been together for a few years, and would publicly show their affinity to one another through drawings and speed paints of each other's characters, as well as them together. Yet this relationship was not smooth sailing, shockingly, and they were now no longer together. Synni kept the details of this fairly closed off, but Ambrixon didn't intend to do the same, and in a number of Discord messages, she began to speak of their relationship not being as good as people thought. She stated that Synni and her had a pretty toxic relationship, where she would often get the blame for a lot of Synni's self-inflicted drama, despite her telling Synni the right moves when she first brought it up. Ambrixon also revealed that Synni had come out as straight in the dwindling months of their relationship, leading to further toxicity between the two. It's worth noting that Synni's conservative household vocally opposed their relationship, with her dad in particular voicing his disapproval. It's evident that they had a hand in this decision. But was it the only hand? Could Synni's obsession with Birdie and her deteriorating online relationship have some sort of correlation? The answer is yes. As it turns out, Synni was far more obsessed with Birdie than she let on. Her public actions were just a small glimpse into her thoughts. Synni would begin to draw herself and Birdie's character in several romantic and sexual ways, buddying up to Birdie's at the time partners to get closer to him, despite still being in a relationship with Ambrixon. There were several fantasies about a dream relationship with Birdie, and later on a full-on hand-drawn comic of Synni being essayed by Birdie. Yes, your ears do not deceive you. Synni's obsession with Birdie would also extend to an obsessive hatred of Birdie's ex-Heimguts, to the point that she would make vents about them and go on to stalk them. Synni's former friends would leak this and a bunch more information to the Evidence Found 01 group. Soon, a video was out and the audience was angry, and people began to pick out more problems with Synni from her public content. Synni would make an initial response in January 2021, in which she asked people for their criticisms of her so that she could make a full response addressing everything. Keep in mind, this wasn't any Google document, this was an array of rant videos with different things to say. Chief among these concerns was Synni's obsession and glorification or whitewashing of Birdie and his actions, as well as her participation in the stalking of Heimguts, as well as concerns over her animations and art in general, claims that some of her work romanticized serious abuse. Members of the audience would also try to reach into Synni's life, making conclusions that she suffers from maladaptive daydreaming and telling her to stop this mental disorder. Others claimed that her saying she was straight showed that she was a straight woman preying on LGBTQ people. Months would go by with Synni working on a response, but still getting continuous backlash every day that she was publicly silent. There's even an unlisted video on a channel where she can be heard crying whilst in Birdie's server because her friends were distancing themselves from her. In April, a small creator by the name of Gator Creation would make a video clarifying some of the most misunderstood claims made by the audience, an emphasis on how all these personal details were leaked. Gator Creation's video seems to show how now it was the audience who were grasping for straws, and taking Synni's portrayal of abuse to mean she was supporting it. This video made a big impact in the public eye, and gave Synni some breathing room for her to release a response, which she did in May 2021. In her videos, she's a lot more passive, and generally apologizes for her behavior and actions. She also claimed that she did not support Birdie's worst actions, just that she took a general stance on hoping he would eventually get better. She would also show proof that she was entirely against things like Heimguts' doxing. As for her supposed romanticization of SA, Synni discussed how she'd confused abuse with angst and apologized. In general, Synni's response was received pretty well by the public. Even after this video, she would cut ties with Birdie, but the effects of what had happened were visible. Synni's viewership had greatly decreased from what it used to be. Her sub count basically plateaued at around 500,000 subscribers. The 2021 drama wasn't the only reason though, as stopping the MLP and Undertale animations was also a big reason. When she cancelled stuff like her DeviantArt webcomic and MLP and Undertale alternate universe fanfiction, people saw that as a sign that she was moving on, and they lost interest in her work. What didn't help either was that Synni was constantly taking long breaks, mostly due to her parents grounding her for getting bad grades. Thankfully, she was now apparently seeking therapy for her mental health and keeping herself in check. And as bad as it had been the last couple of years, she still held a pretty consistent and loyal viewer base, even regularly streaming and getting good numbers every stream. But where would she go now? Well, her interest was now in a new indie game named Friday Night Funkin'. For some reason, it's always Friday Night Funkin', Synni would start to focus her channel almost entirely on FNF, making animations about it, streaming the game, and even making her own character stills. Some of these animations again did pretty well, but the reason we're here isn't to marvel at her FNF skills. Seemingly, as always with this damn game, there was some degeneracy involved. During 2022, Synni would become interested in one FNF mod in particular, that being the WHITTY mod, and the self-titled character featured in it, made by the creator Sock.Clip. Synni would start to vocally express on a Discord server about how much she loved this character, and eventually it would turn into a complete infatuation, fantasizing and drawing her with him in romantic situations, and she would start to include some of Sock's other characters in her drawings, such as one of them named Boy. So what's the problem here? Well, Sock, the creator of WHITTY, was around 15 at the time, and was also very vocal about not having a character sexualized at all. Obviously, probably not a good look to sexualize a character that a 15-year-old had made. Sock was seeing some of these drawings, and her discomfort became so much that she would even block Synni on Twitter. It took until one particularly suggestive piece she posted that Synni would face significant backlash from Sock's fanbase. In her apology, posted to Twitter in October 2022, she said, "I didn't realise Sock.Clip was that uncomfortable with having their characters shipped, and if I had known, I would have stopped sooner. I did not intentionally mean to break anyone's boundaries. I'm just someone who enjoys self-shipping with characters I adore, and I really love Sock's characters. Now that I know you dislike it, I will stop. I hope you can forgive me. I admire your art a lot and you are a huge inspiration. I'll stick to drawing my own characters now, and I'm sorry that I made you uncomfortable. That was never my intention." Whilst this apology is so-and-so, it's entirely built on a lie. Synni frames this as a mishap and that she never knew Sock was uncomfortable at all. This was just not true, evident from her messages on a Discord server where she knew of Sock's discomfort and complained about it. Yet the public, not knowing of this, quickly forgave Synni and moved on. What they didn't know is that Synni's obsession and actions went far beyond what she let on. During 2021, she had made a Discord group chat named Sock Gang, consisting of a few friends whom she indulged her obsession with. She would complain about Sock's discomfort in some messages, and even sent an early draft of her apology where she's more angry. But that wasn't her worst act. In this group, she would send suggestive and explicit art. The group chat members contained several minors, the oldest being 16 and youngest being 14. For context, Synni was 18 when this group started and would turn 19 during its activity. Not only this, but Synni would also make sexual jokes and comments towards these minors. Whilst this was never made public until later, it shows a snippet of the sexual nature that Synni indulged in. More concerning was the fact that minors were involved and she seemingly didn't care, not about their age or Sock's concern. The apologetic nature she put up publicly, the golden child view, seemed to be used as more of a screen for her. Though Sock Gang would never be exposed to the public until much later, there were some breadcrumbs that look worse in hindsight. For example, Synni would announce to her Discord server saying she was fine with NSFW of her character. The post itself had NSFW art, which in itself was a contradiction of her own rules, which literally stated that NSFW was not allowed on the server because it could harm minors. This was only one of several other incidents in which she would openly discuss something sexual with her clearly young fanbase on her public Discord. Not many people knew it at the time, but a pattern was emerging.
By the time this goes up, it will no longer be my birthday. So, Всем привет, меня зовут Synnibear03. I am now 19 years old.
Through 2022 and early 2023, Synni's online uploads would begin to dwindle. Any videos she did post were either streams or a brief return to her old animations. This mostly seems to be due to personal issues she was having with her family, as well as a focus on her real life. For example, she was now in a new relationship with Too Mad?
Long time no see.
Just kidding, it's a guy who she reconnected with after last seeing him in middle school. Synni would go on stream and play games with her new boyfriend for a few months. But returning to the point, Synni was dealing with real life, she had a high school diploma by now, and was starting to work. It was actually during this time that she began to return to the rant format she had abandoned so long ago, making essentially commentary videos. These would do decently, perhaps the highlight of them being her coverage on SCOOTALOO, a once big art commentary channel who had been one of Synni's most vocal critics during her early controversies. SCOOTALOO had essentially run off after a call was leaked of him admitting to having sexual interactions with a minor. But what was to be done with Synni's interactions? We ended off the last segment discussing how Synni was interacting in a Discord server and paying more attention to it, and what came of that is worth more than just a mere mention. During late July of 2023, Synni had met a fan of hers known as Pee-wee or Bug Spray, who had posted some pretty good fan art. Synni would compliment her work publicly and quickly sent her a friend request, but this wasn't to discuss commissions, it was to befriend Bug Spray. Within a week, they were discussing sexual topics and fantasies, with Synni sending entire fanfictions about herself and Sock's multiple OCs. Synni and Bug Spray would enter a sort of relationship. It's never stated outright by either party, but come on. When you're drawing and sending NSFW artwork of... let me check my notes here. Ah yes, farting on each other and planning to move in together, it's kind of obvious. Synni was 19, planning to move in with a 17-year-old who she had allegedly solicited sexual pictures from. Bug Spray would come out and post DMs in November 2023, exposing Synni for being problematic and showing more of her personal details. This included non-consensually publishing these private drawings and their sexual interactions. However, although there were some small rumblings, people didn't really take this seriously. For one, Bug Spray's video was flagged down only mere hours after it was up, because she was just straight up showing the artwork uncensored. Bug Spray was also criticised for the act of leaking private information and her tone while showing these cropped DMs. The fact that she said she was uncomfortable only after making the video, whilst in the DMs there's no questioning at all, didn't help. Synni would put out a generic statement in response, saying she was aware she was in the wrong and that she wouldn't befriend any minors again. Synni clearly had some really weird lines around people when it came to discussing NSFW topics, and seems to have just plucked a fan out of a server to start dating and showing all this weird stuff. Even well into 2024, Synni would continue to sexually obsess over Sock's characters, and even asked her server, one that had minors in it, for their best NSFW chatbots. Synni's discussion of moving out with Bug Spray wasn't entirely out of left field, as it was during this time that her fight with her parents reached its utter apex. In a video in late November 2023, Synni explained that she had moved out after her parents had apparently stolen $11,000 from her. Synni's issues with her parents came because she'd wanted to move out for months, and her parents felt that she was just running away from her problems and wasn't ready to move out. The three had a long dispute over the car that Synni owned, and when she went out of state to pick up a friend and roommate, Synni's parents pulled out $11,000 from her account and paid off the car. To emphasize, this is while she's driving a trip that would take around 3 to 4 days to complete, on an old car they had. Synni was now pretty much all alone and had to make it through life on her own way. But what had she sacrificed it for? Who was this mystery roommate she had driven so far for, who her parents said disgusting and nasty stuff about, who they described as a violent person? Well, his name was Birdie. Yes, after so long, and an entire controversy about Synni supporting Birdie, the two had moved in together in the same apartment. This had already been leaked prior by Bug Spray, showing that they were both in contact with each other, and Synni was driving to pick him up. After months of being cut off, and nearly an entire year of inactivity from Birdie, the two were now roommates, running away from their families. With her life settling down after the chaos she had been through, Synni began regularly streaming again, with Birdie making appearances in the background under the pseudonym of Jimmy. Eventually, Birdie would make his grand return in mid-2024, with a video made to explain all of his history that just kind of obscures a lot of it. But Synni was there playing cheerleader along the way, and even went out of her way to defend Birdie. A fairly large YouTuber and streamer, Deadwing Dork, reacted to Birdie's video and basically made fun of it for a few hours. Birdie and Synni's fanbases would hunt for Deadwing's head, and Synni would make a 3-hour video on Deadwing's whole stream. This is part 1, by the way. Now you can watch this for research. I'm not going to.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
You cannot pay me any amount of money to watch a 3-hour video from Synnibear. However, from what I can deduce, Synni's whole defense for this video is either to deflect to Birdie's mental health or to accuse Deadwing of victim blaming. Both points have issues. Mental illness is often not a cop-out for everything, especially Birdie's actions, and that Birdie warps a lot of these situations in his response. What's annoying is people watched Birdie's video and most of them didn't know the context for any of these stories, so they only had Birdie's word to go off of. But Synni did know the context, she was there for most of it and directly participated in it. So I only see this video as just willful ignorance. What happened to disassociating from Birdie due to his actions? Well, it's worth noting that Bugspray claimed Synni would outright compare her to Birdie, and use her as a sort of substitute for her obsession with him. Now, there is no proof of this, but what we do have is Synni sending over her hand-drawn comics about Birdie, which adds some credence to Bugspray's story. Furthermore, the aspects of Birdie and Synni's home life were very one-sided. Apparently Synni worked 2 jobs, paid the full rent, bought Birdie a computer, and was also Birdie's carer for his health issues, whilst Birdie was just a bed blob, either drawing or sleeping. There are very few people who would drive days on end for a quote-unquote friend, especially one who they only started talking to recently. Users noted that Synni seemed relatively stressed from how she acted on streams or how she talked in a Discord. Maybe it was her drama with Deadwing or just the stress of holding up a household. Nobody saw it coming, but Synni's life was nearing a knife's edge, and the world would soon collapse in on her. In September 2024, 2 Google documents were dropped on Synnibear. One of them exposed Synni for stuff we've discussed already, that being the Sock Gang group chat and Synni's relationship with Bugspray. The other one is an entirely new claim surrounding an individual named Enno. Enno was 14, Synni was 20. At around 188 pages, the document is a timeline of Synni and Enno's conversations, beginning in November 2023. Enno was a friend of another YouTuber named Soph the Neko, who had made the main video on the Bugspray situation. Enno had reached out as a fan, and the conversation wasn't that lively when they first came into contact. But there were key establishments, such as Enno saying she was 14, while Synni laments over how all the funny people out there are just children. Over the next few months, Enno and Synni would sporadically talk with each other, with long calls and DMs where Synni and Enno began talking about sexual topics. This went from discussion to fantasies, to eventually showing Enno explicit artwork of several sexual situations involving Synni's character, as well as continuing to draw NSFW art around Sock's characters. In particular, she shows an entire comic to Enno about Sock's OC boy, which involved SA. I think it has to be emphasized how much of a flashbang this entire conversation was because it exposed so much, as well as the fact that this was all being talked about to a 14-year-old, while Synni acknowledged that she was a minor. Synni constantly talked about her dreams and fantasies all to this person, even using NSFW chatbots in their DMs. Arguably the most harrowing part of this wasn't revealed until much later, when Synni confessed that not only was she sending these images to Enno and playing out fantasies, in their calls, she was getting Enno to read out her explicit comics.
You had Enno read out the comic in VC?
Like the dialogue. I didn't, I didn't think to mention it. It just didn't seem like a...
All the questions we were asking you about you needing to be 100% honest about what was, damning and...
I mean, I didn't even think about it. It didn't even come across my mind. I don't know, it's just like a...
Hey, Kumo, does knowing that fact change anything for you?
Yeah, quite a bit. Because that's, literally asking her to engage in your...
It was mostly just, being able to, hear what her reaction was.
Oh!
The time.
Okay, no, we're done. We're done.
You
asked her to read it. And you wanted her reaction. You know what that means?
I wanted to see if she liked it or not.
Oh my god!
I just like getting feedback. I didn't think...
During...
No.
Well, you wanted feedback, and effectively what is attacked?
I didn't think it was like that.
Synni and Enno's conversations continued until September, stopped by the release of this document. Now, one of the main defenses that people put out for Synni in response to this document, maybe the main one, is that she was straight. Therefore, she had no interest in Enno as a partner, therefore it's not grooming. Obviously, if you've paid attention to the video, you realize how dumb that is. Even if Synni was straight as far as we know, she had a history of dating women, which were some of her longest relationships. The reason her first relationship ended was because she changed her sexuality, something which was probably influenced by her conservative parents. In fact, with bug spray in particular, the patterns between her and Eno's cases are almost one-to-one. Synni plucking out a random fan, befriending them quickly, and then using them as an outlet for all their fantasies. And even if the point about her being straight was somehow valid, what difference would it make? Apart from the sudden distinction of labels, it doesn't change much about what Synni did. With grooming, there's even a specific tactic used known as EPI, or Early Introduction, in which minors are exposed to adult content. That tactic can absolutely be applied here. Synni showed Eno NSFW art and comics pertaining to specific in a one-on-one conversation, and entrusted her with these secrets. Not only did she make Eno read these comics on call, but she also encouraged her to draw her own comics. Anyone with a working brain knows that what Synni has done here is extremely wrong and unforgivable. At the time of the Eno document, Birdie and Synni were both on holiday, just about to return. Birdie would confront Synni on what she had done, and then move to make a video about her that would blow this whole situation up, titled, "My roommate groomed a 14-year-old. I need help." This whole video ruining Synni's career seems to be quietly recorded in the room next to her. In addition to promoting the documents against Synni, Birdie would also allege that Synni had been inappropriate with him multiple times during his stay with her, something she vehemently denied. The video ends off with Birdie showing a half-completed sexualized animation of him and Synnibear's characters, for seemingly no reason other than to not let it go to waste. In the coming days, Birdie's GoFundMe, set up to escape Synni, would surpass its goal of $10,000, while Synni's whole career was in freefall. She began tanking subscribers, and all she could do is purge some of her videos and publish a short apology, admitting to everything.
I was going to make a video talking about a recent document that was released about me, but the situation has gotten much more serious as I realize the damage that I've caused. I've been an irresponsible content creator, and I've been acting inappropriately towards my fans. This alone is enough for me to realize I need to make sweeping changes to how I conduct myself and how I interact with my fans. But the most serious thing I've done is I've groomed a minor. I became friends with a 14-year-old after I made a mental note to myself to not become friends with minors again, and I overshared with them. I shared graphic, explicit materials with them when I shouldn't have. I groomed this child, and I knew what I was doing was wrong. And I betrayed everyone who looked up to me. I betrayed my friends. I've done the worst possible thing I could have done, and I'm suffering for my choices. I'm sorry to everyone I've ever made uncomfortable with my sexual content. I'm sorry to the victim I groomed. I don't want to say their name, I want to protect their identity. I'm sorry for what I've done. I'm ashamed of myself for doing this and hurting everyone. I'll be closing my Discord server. I'm shutting down my Patreon. I won't be posting my art.
In the following days, Birdie would move out while Synni was close to ending it all. The police were called, but just for a wellness check, and Birdie would later return just to break in and take one of Synni's cats, as well as leaving a hat on Synni's bed that said groom. This action made some people believe that Birdie was making the situation about himself, rather than the 14-year-old that had just been groomed. Privately, Synni was far from apologetic. Her main emotion was anger towards Birdie and Laurel, one of her closest online friends over the years who had also publicly distanced herself. In leaked diaries and drawings, she can be seen fantasizing about murdering them both. In the wake of her cancellation, Synni was reportedly doxxed, and several people called up her employers telling them what happened. They let Synni know and she was spooked, instantly buying stuff like pepper spray, knives, and crowbars. Despite everything that happened, Synni was somehow still in contact with Eno, and still venting to them about all this stuff. Thankfully, Eno would then cut her off, and anyone else would be forgiven for thinking that this was the end of everything. But shockingly, Synni was not down and out yet. Despite the insurmountable evidence that had been presented, she still had supporters. The only issue is that they weren't really here for her. Pushback to the support of Birdie began with a commentary YouTuber named Kumo, who had a history of being an edgy contrarian of sorts in the art commentary community. Kumo began to stream discussing the Synni situation. His argument/crackpot theory stemmed from the fact that Eno pestered Synni for attention for months, and his theory is that Sofa Neko sent Eno as a ploy to frame Synni. He also infamously dismissed Synni and Eno's descriptive conversations as high school locker room girl talk. Obviously, the flaw in this argument is what a 20-year-old would be doing in a high school locker room. Kumo's belief was that this was all a massive operation to frame Synni, and Birdie was mooching off her as much as he could, even to the extent of the GoFundMe. These streams would eventually get Synni's attention, and the two would get in contact. Kumo's defense would provide a basis for the setup of an entire group chat made to defend Synni, which has now been given the name Synnibear Defense Force. This group chat included Kumo, who we already know. The other major figure here was someone named Romantic Goblin, an aspiring streamer and archivist who used to be part of the art commentary community. She had changed sides to more of a contrarian stance in recent drama, and allied herself with Kumo in order to further her aspirations. Her presence also drew together other members of the group chat, people from her community who were there to give advice. Most importantly, the group managed to get in Synni herself, and they would give her advice on how to move forward. Now, I can't lie, this group chat has some interesting things. For example, Romantic Goblin tried to buy a gun to arm Synni for self-defense, which is incredibly funny. She also wrote up an entire defense draft for Synni that includes her labeling their own group as the KKK. However, even within this group, there were underlying issues. People like Romantic Goblin and Evan Do Things wanted to keep the conversations to the group chat, whilst Kumo wanted Synni for himself, so that he could control the public flow of information. Throughout their DMs, Kumo can be seen nestling pretty close to Synni, repeatedly addressing her as a sweetheart. On September 30th, Synnibear would private her initial admission and issue a 40-minute response defending herself. Synni states that her previous confession was made under immense pressure and coercion by Birdie. So what was her grand defense? Well, the first 14 minutes are dedicated to addressing the grooming allegations, with the rest of the video going over Birdie, the claims he made, and his personal and financial issues. Synni's defense against her grooming allegations is going on a sort of grooming checklist on some online website, and arguing how she didn't fall under all these specific terms, despite the website itself saying that grooming may take a number of forms. The best part is when she says that she didn't discuss sexual stuff, just sadistic fantasies, before then backtracking and saying she did discuss sexual stuff. She also argues that Eno started it, which is stupid because adults know better than minors around sexual topics, and it is their responsibility to control the conversation when such topics are brought up. The last point of note is that Synni says she doesn't care about Sock's discomfort with how she was using her characters, saying it doesn't matter if the creator is a minor. The next 26 minutes are Synni discussing her frustrations with Birdie's personal life and actions, before breaking down in tears over her love for Birdie.
The fact that I thought he cared about me. I thought he loved me. And he says this awful shit publicly, victory lapping around me, encouraging people to make hateful art about me, talking about stealing my intellectual properties for himself to use, knowing that I can't say anything about it, because the internet hates me, trying to silence me once he found out that I was making my video. I feel sick because I still care about him. I genuinely hope he is safe. I still love him, even after seeing all this. I still love him. I don't know why he's acting like this. I know he has borderline personality disorder, so I really hope that this is just him splitting on me, and maybe later down the line he'll come to his senses and realize that I'm not the monster he's saying I am.
Synni's response wasn't up for long. The reception was about what you would expect, and she quickly took it down and issued a community post apology. Kumo and Goblin's well-constructed defenses had fallen over like a house of cards. To make things worse, Synni's former friend Laurel would post a thread of another relationship Synni had, this time with a 15-year-old when she was 18. At one point she would ask this person out, and use the same tactics that she had done with Eno and Bug Spray. Early exposure, followed by spamming sexual fantasies, NSFW art, and showing the comics she had made. And if things couldn't get any worse, Kumo, Synni's biggest defender, had found out something he hadn't known previously. Synni had contacted another YouTuber who was working on defending her. Enter Just a Robot, established art commentary channel whose eyes had seen the glory of YouTube for over 10 years at this point. Jar was interested in covering the recent drama with Synni, as he had been before with every new art commentary drama of the time. His only interactions with Synni prior were Synni citing him in his video on Spoctor, and him commenting on said video. Jar had already worked on and and finished a first draft of the video, in which he basically condemned Synni. But seeing Kumo's streams, Jar believed that public opinion was beginning to change in favour of Synni, and without hesitation, scrapped his first draft and moulded it into what would eventually become a defence for Synni's actions. He later managed to get into contact with Synni and conducted an interview for his video. With this new second draft done, Jar began sending the link around to other people to get their opinions on the video. One of them was Romantic Goblin, who obviously sent it to Kumo. And Kumo, having seen Synni talk to someone else, now felt betrayed and leaked Jar's video. Panicking, Jar then uploaded his video as the Synnibear03 rabbit hole. During the 24 hours that it was up, Jar had introduced us all to probably one of the worst commentary drama videos made in human history. This includes him lying about not reading the document even though he had, as well as defending Synni by downplaying what she sent and equating it to sexy scenes from anime. Jar constantly argued over the definition of groomer and used his distinction to excuse her as just being a sexual deviant. The video also includes a soul-sucking interview portion, and I'm being incredibly generous calling it an interview because it's basically Jar advising her on what to do and confirming all his biases, as well as saying some really cringy stuff that was even making Synni uncomfortable.
You were just a bit bi-curious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Once I kissed an Italian guy, but that's not important right now.
Way back when, I like, became friends with someone named Pee-wee.
Like, something isn't right, and after looking at everything, I realized what you did was bad. Very bad. If you were... You better thank your vagina. If you had a pee-pee, you would be... Oh, man, it would not be good for you if you had a pee-pee.
Aw, man.
Yeah, but... people are more forgiving when women do this.
Whilst Kumo's tactics seemed to be about controlling the information, Jar's idea was to gather together a band of creators to defend Synni. One of those targets was Chud Logic, a drama streamer who had covered Birdie's video and Synni's document. Him just making fun of all sides involved and not taking it too seriously caught Jar's attention. As these DMs read to me, Jar saw an ally in Chud and someone he could convince to fight alongside him, but that idea would be his undoing. Jar would DM Chud with the video link, and he watched it a day later on stream, obviously lambasting it for how terrible it was. During this reaction, Kumo asked Synni to send over her DMs with Jar, which were then sent to Chud and shown on stream. Not only was there confirmation of Jar trying to use Chud as a conduit for a defense, but also really weird messages that Jar sent to Synni, such as flirty messages and jokes, as well as asking her to hop on a late night call so that he could fall asleep to her voice. This would lead Chud to confront Jar on stream, not only about his video points, but also on his DMs.
Well, okay, I would put wonderful. To you that the behaviour exhibited here goes beyond being inappropriate and is so egregious as to not really warrant this, semantic debate over whether or not it's grooming. This person was engaging in extended sexual conversations and sending them not safe for work charts knowingly when they were 14 and the person was 20 and Synnibear's 20. Like, that's a bit more than inappropriate and could easily constitute grooming by some people's definitions, no? And it seemed to me like you just wanted to have a chat and have a laugh and talk about other drama and present yourself as this person who's done this before and everything's going to be okay. Don't worry, Synnibear, we're going to sort this out. It was almost like listening to a defense attorney talk to their client. In the course of pursuing this story, you spoke to Synnibear and you developed some sort of attraction or interest in them beyond a purely professional one. This has then led you to frame the video in a certain way. And this is the architect now of your pain. This connection that you've made, this non-disclosed connection, which is a complete conflict of interest and should never have happened.
I have no sexual interest in Synni at all.
But you do, okay, actually, let's say this. Go on.
No, actually, I want to take... No. Okay. Maybe I do have sexual interest in Synni. I mean, I'm a straight guy, come on. So I'm going to walk back on that, but...
Right. So you were trying to use my platform in order to spread your message under the auspices of, oh, I just want your feedback. That's extremely manipulative. And I'm amazed that you think I would fall for that. I'm astounded that you think you could pull a fast one on me like this.
Well, I did want your feedback. And
Who are you kidding?
I know. It's just I thought there were so many offensive videos out there. Why can't there be one video going in the, well, aside from Kumo, another video going in the opposite direction? Like, I was trying to add to
Do you think there should be a video defending Jeffrey Epstein against his crimes?
Jeffrey Epstein, the gay serial killer, right?
No, that's Jeffrey Dahmer.
Jar's terrible video gave the Synnibear case so much more publicity that it went beyond the animation meme community. If there was any chance that Synni could come back, it had been snuffed out by Jar's sheer incompetency. In the wake of this, Kumo and Goblin would confront Synni on her contact with Jar, during which Kumo essentially turns on her. According to the call, their issue was that Synni was far more happy and bright in her interview with Jar, whereas in their conversations, she presented herself as incredibly affected by the whole situation. Kumo was annoyed that Synni had basically disregarded his advice and felt she had used the group chat for comfort. They were also furious that Synni didn't tell them that she had gone on voice calls with Eno to read the comics.
I'll just be blunt with you. I have a problem with how you've effectively lied and have been performative for like the last, I don't know, almost month with me. You are not in a position to be so like careless, and you only and you don't even try to lie to me. You only talked to Jar and continued contact with Jar because he told you what you wanted to hear and I didn't. And this I did, you know, honestly, in hindsight, I shouldn't have. I should have just let you go down that path. But you're freaking out that I tried to undermine Jar in your best interest. Make it perfectly clear that you were aware he was making passes at you.
I didn't think it was at the time. At the time, I thought he was just being, like, weird. I didn't think it was, like, an actual pass. Like, I was assuming that he was, like...
You're smarter than you're letting on.
I thought it was weird. I didn't think it was, like, a flirt. Like...
So why was it weird?
Because I just thought it was strange to say, because it's just not something you say.
Because you thought it was a flirt.
Not really, it's just...
Well, then why would it be strange?
However, it's hard to not see this as something else, especially with Kumo sounding like a jealous ex-boyfriend. I think there is some genuine anger in there, but it's also very evident how fast the tides were changing, and it's possible these two saw it as a very convenient smokescreen to obscure their involvement in Synni's defense. Unfortunately for them, the group chat logs would later be leaked online. But more importantly, Synni had lost her last real defenders. Following Jar's video, a lot of the community focused more on him and his weird actions. Jar had pretty much taken the heat off Synnibear, and if anything, it at least allowed her to drag down Birdie while she was going down. When Synni and Birdie had moved in together, they bought two cats for each other, one named Squirp and the other named Stupid. However, due to Birdie not wanting to put his dead name on the legal papers, Synni legally owned both cats. This was a fine solution until of course it wasn't, and as we know, Birdie would break into Synni's house and take his cat back, before then claiming that Synni had taken it back away. The only issue is Synni had never taken Birdie's cat. After Birdie took one of the cats, he actually left it at the house of Queen, one of Synni's former friends, and just lied to make Synni look worse, I guess. There seems to be no reason behind this other than that, a completely unnecessary thing to do, and it gave Synni the chance to challenge it with a video of her own. In the video, she also claims that Birdie did not take good care of the cats and would often leave litter and food around on the floor, with Synni having to come home from work to tend to them. Whilst there is no proof of such a claim, Birdie does have a history of neglecting his pets, as seen with his now deceased pet ferret, Chara. Synni would then play a recording of her coming to Queen's house to retrieve the cat, only to be turned away rather than stealing it.
Hello. I'm here for my cat.
No.
What do you mean, no?
Cynthia, you're not allowed here.
What do you mean?
Cynthia, go home.
Your father let me inside.
Yeah.
Where's my cat?
Not going to give her to you.
What do you mean?
Because she's not your cat.
Yes, she is. Where is my cat?
Cynthia, no.
What do you mean, no?
Cynthia, go home.
What do you mean, no? I have the paperwork. I can show you the paperwork, actually.
Cynthia, just because you bought this cat for Jack. You said you bought this cat for Jack.
That means literally nothing.
That does mean something. You bought this cat for Jack, yes? Is this cat yours? I mean...
Yes. Yes.
Did you buy this cat?
Yes.
Yes?
She's my cat. I spent the money. I signed the paperwork. Give me my cat.
This cat back. Didn't Jack give you the money for your cat?
I can't say that for sure. I want my cat.
Cynthia, go.
I literally gave you like a court order.
Okay, and go before I call the cops.
I
will call the cops, Cynthia.
Really cannot believe you.
Okay, I'll tell 911 then. Go. Go.
You. God.
Go. Just go. Just go.
You.
And thank you.
Whilst the cat drama did not rejuvenate Synni's career, it certainly spelled the end of Birdie's short-lived return. Interest was renewed in his actions, and criticisms for inappropriate behaviour were met with Birdie responding by pill posting. Old characters from his past would later come back into the spotlight, and Birdie would vanish offline, having spent the GoFundMe money on MLP merch rather than housing. Following this, Synni would also go silent, pausing all of her comments and briefly unlisting all of her videos, before putting them back with a few obvious omissions. Synni seems to be totally focused on her real-life situation. It's unclear if she's gotten back in contact with any part of her family, but it's evident that any attempt at a comeback was futile. As said before in the intro, Synni's whole case was overshadowed by the violently explosive crescendo of her career. It wasn't just limited to these allegations. The amount of people that either threw themselves in the line of fire or just were hit by collateral damage made this so interesting. Kumo, Goblin, almost everyone from that group chat, Birdie and Synni herself are all pretty much gone. Jar is barely hanging on after everyone took his parts away. It's easy to forget that Synni was the whole reason behind this all starting, and her story beyond that shows a knocking of dominoes, a moral mainframe fading away. Stepping away from the whole timeline for a second, when I was working on this video, I originally titled this Synnibear Solitude. In fact, it might still be on the title card. And as cool of a title as that sounds, I scrapped it because it wasn't accurate. To just base this all on being lonely is downplaying it. I think it's far better to say that Synnibear lived her whole career through a victim complex. Perhaps sensitive to apply that to someone who has apparently been victimized, but that may have been the source for it. Synni spent a lot of her career known as the first good Sans fangirl, a heavy amount of praise that was deserved to some extent, but when she got into her early controversies, she would lose almost every time, and face the heat from the whole community. That heightened sense of self being utterly shattered by her own decisions was something hard to accept for her when she was young. Over time, it's obvious that as she grew up, she grew tired of being held accountable, thinking she'd already atoned by now despite these being different issues. Her humility became hubris, and she became more incentivized to just get rid of this, no matter how. The fact that she could lie and get away with it only strengthened this idea that she was now free from the eyes of the public and later her parents, any authority that would hold her to her actions. Synni felt she could do whatever she wanted, talk to anyone about anything on her mind, no matter what it was or how old they were. Ironically, that aspect of wanting to cry on everyone's shoulder was her undoing in how unintentionally popular it made her case. I still don't think Synni feels bad for what she's done. Her response, the voice clips of her admitting to being in calls with Enno, show a very cold exterior. She doesn't feel bad because she doesn't think she did anything bad, and thinks she's the victim of everyone else. It's astounding to compare the present to back in 2020, when the drama got to a point that Synni felt she had to change her name entirely, the one that she'd become famous under, just to wipe the slate clean and leave the drama behind. But she never would. Instead of overcoming it and moving on, she would hold on to it, merely as a justification for promising herself the future. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay safe and stay toasty.